SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Oh, man, on this Tuesday. I almost got confused today. I'm still screwed up, having been off last week.
Hump Day Eve?
Yeah, Hump Day Eve. We'll do that. So, I didn't share the story yesterday concerning something that occurred during our travels out to the desert and actually en route back. And it's pretty cool. So Julie and I flew southwest from Phoenix to Dallas, and I guess I had purchased the premium seating where you get to board. They don't have assigned seats, of course, on Southwest. Get to board early. And I like to sit in the front. I like to sit with the bulkhead because you can get off in a hurry and not have to wait for everybody else. And so this young lady comes on, and she is a 6'3", attractive black female that's got an Arizona State warm-up suit on. The garnet color with the gold Sun Devils logo across the front. And I'm thinking, just based on her profile, I bet she's got something to do with sports. Turns out she's the assistant women's basketball coach at Arizona State. And she was headed to Dallas because she had shared with us that she was on the staff as a basketball coach there at TCU and still had a property there, house there, and had moved into the desert to Arizona State. And she was sort of cleaning up some details there, dealing with that. Kind of cool. So she strikes up. She's in the aisle seat. I'm in the window seat. My wife, Julie's in the middle seat. And my wife's never met a stranger now, and they strike up a conversation. And they're talking a lot. And she's sharing her history in sports, played basketball, I believe, at Oklahoma. And just talked about a wide range of things. We get off the airplane, and we're going to the baggage claim. And so she actually extends to my wife an invitation to just exchange contact information. They hit it off so well, And she was dealing with some financial matters on her house. And, of course, Julie offers my services to help with that, which, of course, I'm happy to do any way I can. So get this, Rhino. Julie's typing in her name in her phone and her phone number. And she gives her name. And I'm getting the bags while this is going on off the baggage claim. And Julie says, well, she gave me her name, and it just sounds so familiar. And during the flight, she had just shared that her father was from Africa. This is Hakeem Olajuwon's daughter. I just shocked. And my wife said, I know that's so familiar, but not a big NBA basketball fan. And it's been a while, of course, since Hakeem played in the NBA. It was her daughter. Think about that. She never said anything about that. She referred to her father as just being someone from Africa. And so Julie texts her after we were on our way and she was on her way, and almost apologizes for I didn't recognize it. And she LOL'd her back, and he said, yeah, as you can imagine, I get my height from my father. My mother was 5'3". Pretty cool, though. But here's what I'll say. She was raised right. If you think about that, not to sort of thrust that on you and boast about it. And I can see how she's probably a fantastic basketball coach, and just looking at her physical profile, a dang good athlete in her own right. That's kind of cool, though, to ride on the flight with someone who is the daughter of such a renowned celebrity. What was it, the Fly Slamma Jamma? Remember that, the Houston team that he played on, as I recall, that had him and a couple other NBA players at the same time who became NBA players. But just had to share that. It was kind of neat, honestly, flying on the plane with her and her just being so non-pretentious, I guess is what you could say about it. We need more people like that don't run around and wear that on their sleeve. And you think about it, yes, because she was raised right, honestly. And clearly, she wants to be known as any self-respecting person does for her own accomplishments, her own profile. But wow, what a great personality! So when she was at TCU, she was like head recruiter, is kind of the way she described it. And I can see how she would be fantastic. And she, of course, shared some of the stories of dealing with young college women athletes, as you can imagine. There's some challenges there, but really cool. Just had to pass that on. That kind of a neat deal. So, like, her and Julie continue to text. They're like BFFs now, And Julie kind of, sort of, took a bit of a surrogate mother role, so to speak, which is fine. Pretty cool. We're all set, ready to go here. Just had to pass that on. Hope it didn't bore you with that. We got Nora Miller.
Moms are moms wherever they mom.
Completely true. Absolutely true. And, of course, Julie's sharing issues in our trials and tribulations in being parents and raising our adult children, because which are not far off in age from her, which something we sort of shared. Kind of neat. We got Nora Miller, president, speaking of colleges, of Mississippi University of Women. She's coming on the program. She just announced that she intends to retire. So she's coming on at 10:35. Lawrence Blackman, he's a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives, hails from District 57, that's my county, Madison County, and he'll give us his thoughts on the legislative session to this point. We should pass on, Rhino, that we finally have managed to secure an interview on the network with Senator Dennis DeBar, who chairs the Education Committee over there in the Senate. He will be on the morning show, I believe tomorrow, with host Richard Cross. Disappointed that we couldn't get him on this show, and it's one of those things that you don't know why. All you know is, well, here's the time we have that we can come on. Sort of, how that stuff works. Of course, the lieutenant governor's been on with Richard twice since maybe once just before the end of the year, and then on, was it yesterday, I think? So we're still trying to get him on this program as well. We'd certainly enjoy a discussion. We are working to get the Speaker of the House on with us next Monday, and he's always kind enough and generous with his time. You remember last time we had him on, kept him an entire hour. Of course, cleared that with him and his team, and because there's much to talk about, especially now that the legislature is in session. We, of course, didn't mention yesterday, it was a short show with some rather meaty interviews, and so that kind of limited our time just to talk about lots of stuff. A bunch of violence over the weekend in the Magnolia State. Very disturbing. We had some road rage at the Chick-fil-A in Rankin County on Lakeland Drive. We had what it turns out to be a mass shooting, a massacre, in my view, in Clay County. And then we had this burning of the Beth Israel Synagogue in the city of Jackson, not far from where we are, as a matter of fact. All on the weekend. In addition to all the sort of normal crime, if you could call it that, right? What you can almost just expect. But these are disturbing developments. We're learning more about this individual who decided to set fire to the Jewish synagogue, and some of the comments that he has made about the Jewish people. This is a young person playing baseball, I think, at one of our community colleges. Very disturbing, to say the least. We'll dig into that. We got a whole bunch more to talk about. Full show today. Stuff going on in Washington. Stuff going on underneath the dome at the Capitol. Coming right back on Middays from the Element Wealth Studio.
Hello,
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
Awesome. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Everyone, it's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Little who there. So it's you know the old saying, things come in threes. There may have been some other high-profile violent events that occurred in the Magnolia State over the weekend, but right now I don't know what else, but those three were enough. That's all I needed to hear. This Beth Israel arsonist has been identified. Spencer Pittman. He called the Jewish congregation, quote, the synagogue of Satan. So we were just talking about our interaction and encounter with Hakeem Olajuwon's lovely daughter. And I just remarked how you could tell she was raised right. This is a person who obviously was not, it would appear. They don't come out of the womb like this. Something's going on to cause this person to harbor such hatred and such contempt for people based on their religious views. You may not agree with the Jewish faith and what it stands for, but a bedrock principle of this country that made it great, religious freedom. And in this case, this is a peaceful group of people that exercise their religious faith and freedom as they see fit. This guy's 19 years old, charged with arson of property involved in interstate commerce for allegedly setting the building that houses the Beth Israel congregation and the Gold Ring Woldenberg Institute of Southern Jewish Life on fire. Hands were bandaged from burn injuries. After he was already set parts of the building ablaze. This building, by the way, it's been there a long time, on Old Canton Road in Jackson.
Well, given the picture that's making its rounds on social media. He's got some pretty gnarly burns on his hands, but he's lucky considering the surveillance footage that he didn't catch his whole body on fire because he was struggling with that 5-gallon can.
Right. That's clearly. So when he was asked by the judge if he understood the charges against him, I mean, that's the standard practice, right?
Right.
He said, quote, "Yes, Jesus Christ is Lord." So this is where I guess I get a little upset about, could you call it hijacking Christianity? Pretty sure that as Christians, we believe in the sanctity of life and property. That's pretty fundamental and essential to God's teachings and Christ's teachings. So I don't think Christ said, yeah, go out and burn down synagogues. That's his way of, I guess, expressing his opposition to their beliefs. Can't we just have civil discourse about that? You got to go burn the building down? And who knows what else he would have done had he not been captured. I don't think he was through, honestly. But how do you get this way at 19? Don't you have better things to do? Your whole life in front of you? Just incredible. So the synagogue, Beth Israel, has indicated they will rebuild. I think it damaged the library and some of the administrative areas, and there's photos going around of the fire damage there. But, man, it's just a shame that this is going on in this country. This anti-Semitism stuff. Again, you may not agree with the Jewish faith, and you may not agree with their doctrine, but religious freedom is essential to a free society, to a thriving society. Isn't that one of the reasons the country was created? Because they were not permitted to worship as they saw fit in jolly old England? In fact, back in those days, it was about worshiping the king, right? A mortal human. A little bit, I know. Maybe I'm exaggerating. You're thinking about that.
After Henry VIII, the king became the head of state and the head of the church.
Yeah,
but he was more like a papal position, so he wasn't really being worshipped. He was just the head dog.
Head of state and head of church at the same time is obviously problematic.
Yeah.
So, but on the good news side,
up with us.
Exactly. On the good news side, certainly in my view, fantastic news. Elon Musk announces he's going to dump a bunch of money, $20 billion to be exact, in a data center up there in DeSoto County, South Haven, Mississippi. The governor announced this on Thursday, the day I was out of town, on the Fiesta Bowl. Big news coming through. Of course, the tech giants in this country are busy out building data centers to satisfy. It's a little disingenuous to say it's totally driven by AI. The fact is, we all are consuming cloud-powered services, and that means that programs, data, infrastructure that make all that work are housed in these hardened data center facilities. That's a phenomenon that I watched take hold back in the early 2000s. I think I've shared that my company actually took huge risk and built the first commercial data center in the state of Mississippi, and that was in late 2000. Thinking that this was going to be the future way that businesses and individuals would consume information technology. And I started thinking about that. Rhino, all the people that have a million reasons why they oppose all this. I mean, the latest I've heard is these things cause cancer. You've seen this, right? And
everything from cancer through air pollution or heavy metals in the water to they make too much noise to they're taking farmland and we're going to starve.
And once again, they use data centers to publish their protests. Not only that, do they think about the fact that video, rich content, actually requires more data center resources. Oh, they got to make their little point for attention. But I started thinking about when I was...
In fairness, most of those people are the ones that go to the cell phone store like, hey, I can't take any more pictures.
That's exactly right.
It's full. What do I do?
Great point. I started thinking about, the IT person in me when I was at the bowl games. How much of that, just in the context of all these people that oppose these data centers, is made possible in whose efficiency has been increased and economic activity dramatically as a result of cloud-based technologies. Everything, think about it, everything from buying your tickets. How about presenting your electronic ticket at the gate and it being scanned electronically? And then you go to any of the concession stands and there's cloud-based technology they're using for the point of sale. And there's merchandise shops set up. And I admit that Julie and I stood in line and we consumed some of the products there at the merchandise shop. And, of course, they got the little handheld credit card readers, all cloud-based, right? Everything is. And then your ability to scan a QR code and participate in the light show, which just kind of enhances the experience. Or the photos that you can share and they'll put up on the boards, which enhances the experience. Just go on and on and on. Every bit of it powered by data centers. Do you think folks get that? Or think these opponents, I'm saying?
No.
I don't think they do either. But think about the people who are producing income for themselves as a result. I'm thinking about these merchants selling the gear there, the merchandise, specifically to the Fiesta. Oh, yeah, and then the tailgate party that was outside the stadium. And you could buy food and drinks and all that kind of stuff, all powered by the cloud. So we've got to figure out a way to embrace and utilize and leverage these technologies, but in a way that's not harmful. And this deal about the farmland, all 5,000 acres that's being consumed here in the state of Mississippi, there are 30 million acres in Mississippi. We're stepping aside for a break. Nora Miller, president of MUW, is next.
From theSeabrook.com.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Packing my suitcase, writing a tear-stained goodbye note, saying so long to a love gone wrong, and that's all she wrote. Leaving behind what once was mine with sad regret.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're pleased to welcome now Nora Miller, the president of the Mississippi University of Women. Hey, Nora, good to see you this morning.
Hey, good to see you too.
Thanks
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. We wanted to first just receive a bit of an update from the university. It's been a couple of months, I think, since we last spoke. I believe we were in Columbus then. Tell us what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're starting off our spring semester tomorrow, so campus is coming back to life, and we're excited. We've been celebrating some good news that's been released. The college scoreboard was released last month, and it showed the earnings 4 years post-graduation of Pell Grant recipients, and MUW graduates earned the most of all the public universities. So really pleased with that. So we've hit some good numbers here lately. Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. And I'm glad to see you guys tracking that, because that's what it's all about. The education unto itself is of no value unless it enables the student, the graduate, to succeed in their professional life post-graduation.
Right. We've been recognized, several times for the social mobility of our students. We have a large percentage of our students who, take out Pell Grants and student loans, and they're able to get a job and really make a difference for generations.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where are you seeing most of the students be placed and earn the most dollars? What industry? What field?
Well, probably nursing would be the highest one.
Yeah.
And of our May graduates, 84% of them are working in Mississippi. So
Good. So they're staying home.
that's great.
great.
We're retaining them here. They
Yeah.
are.
Especially nurses and healthcare professionals, whereas, we have a fairly acute shortage. I mean, there's a nationwide acute shortage, and Mississippi is no exception to that particular dynamic. But we have fantastic universities such as MUW that educate in that field and turn them out, and they're ready to go, and we keep them here in Mississippi. It's in the best interest of the state for sure.
By far.
Yeah.
By far.
What the legislature, as we talk about here a lot on this program, is back in Jackson under the dome, as they say. What sort of legislative agenda do you have?
Well, of course, IHL is pushing for increases in faculty and staff salaries so that we can retain our faculty here. That's very important. We're also hoping that this year there will be a bond bill and some funds to cover some construction projects and renovation projects. So we'll be pushing for those faculty salaries. Also, we're interested in partnering with Neshoba General Hospital to provide nursing education on their campus in Philadelphia. And so we'll be working with Neshoba General and trying to make that happen. It's really important, a way to really impact rural health. And there are 8 facilities within 45 minutes of Philadelphia that have trouble recruiting and retaining nurses. So we're looking to see what we can do to help there.
Gotcha. So you kind of surprised a lot of folks with the announcement of your retirement. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been here at the W it'll be just a few weeks short of 25 years when I close up, and with the last 8 of them being as president. And it's been a great honor and a great privilege to work with so many wonderful people. But 8 years is a long time in owl years. So I think it's time for me to pass things along. We're in a good place right now. We had the largest enrollment growth this fall of all the 8 universities. We've hit some great national recognitions, and I think we've got a good base to go from, and we've got some momentum behind us. So, and strong leaders here on campus.
So, do you feel, Nora, that you're leaving the institution in better shape than you found it? You've made significant improvements over your tenure?
I think so. We've done a lot. We established the Women's College. We surpassed our $25 million goal of our first capital campaign. We did that ahead of schedule. We've had number 1 rankings for our nursing and speech language pathology programs. We've become full members of the NCAA Division III. We've done a lot, and I think we've got a good base for us to go forward with. I'm very optimistic about the future of this university.
Do you have any sights at this point or thoughts about who your successor might be? Can you share that with us?
Well, that will be that's for the IHL board to determine, and
Yeah.
I haven't really had any discussions with them. I met with the commissioner last month, and we talked about my plans. And I don't know if they'll go with a full national search or what, but I imagine we'll find out more over the next couple of months of what their plans will be. But I'm giving a good 6 months notice so that there's time to plan for a transition.
Whomever is selected and ultimately hired by the IHL board, Nora, what advice would you give them in the transition?
Get to know this institution, be involved in the community, and take good care of her.
Yeah. And that's certainly what you have done. Everything is moving in the positive, right direction. So it's not like you're turning over an organization that's broken. In fact, quite the opposite.
Oh, no.
So that makes that transition a little easier. You don't need somebody to come in and be the fixer-upper, so to speak. that would be that'd be problematic. But you've done a fantastic job of getting it to where it is.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to working with campus over the next 6 months. We're going to be building the strategic plan to move forward with, and that will kind of set the guardrails for the next couple of years to figure out where we're going.
What are you concerned about, thinking just more generally, Nora, that higher education might be facing in the future? What even in your current role as the president, what maybe causes you a little stress that you're concerned about, and your peers as well?
Well, I think it's, funding is always a challenge, being able to make sure that the PERS system is healthy and that we're able to recruit and retain good people with having those benefits. I think changes in the U.S. Department of Education and anything with financial aid is a concern. But I think that, IHL is looking at a new funding formula. And there's been a lot of interest in that from the legislature. And we're not afraid of performance funding. We perform very well. We just have to make sure that the right things are being measured and that everyone understands the importance of all 8 universities in this system.
Yeah, it's a good point. As you well know, some other states do employ a performance-based funding approach. Mississippi does not, right? It's more based on just strict enrollment. Is that correct?
It was based on performance and then has been just kind of incrementally changed just based on what appropriations are. So if we're going to be measuring graduation rates, we need to look not only at the first-time, full-time freshman cohort, but MUW, so many of our students are transfer students, and they're not counted in that first-time, full-time freshman cohort.
Yeah.
So we like to look at the number of degrees per 100 students.
Okay.
And that's an area where we lead the system. We have 33 graduates for every 100 students.
Okay.
So we just need to measure what the mission is of each university, and like I said, we're not afraid of performance funding. We perform very well.
And has that been a challenge in just some of the reports I've read that a lot of students begin their higher education, but they don't make it all the way to the finish line and get a degree, and something happens between start and finish, right?
Right. That's the most expensive student loan you can take out, is one that doesn't get you through to completion. Yeah. So we work very hard to keep the cost down and to try to provide all the support services to get students through that through line. Yeah.
So what about just recruiting students, Nora? What's your sales pitch to them when you try to bring them on campus?
Well, we let them know about the small student-faculty ratio, about the personal relationships that you have with your faculty. We talk about the experiences that students have. So many of our programs involve internships or preceptorships where people get real work experience. And so we are low cost and very family-oriented, very student-oriented.
Have a great story to tell for sure. Nora Miller, the president of the Mississippi University of Women, has been our guest here on Middays. Thanks for coming on, Nora. Best of luck to you. We'll probably talk to you again soon.
All right, great. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. We're stepping aside for a break, folks. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
When I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, wonder.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays on the C Spire text line. Jimmy and Madison. I've known him talking about the 19-year-old Spencer Pittman who set fire to the Beth Israel Synagogue in Jackson. Since he was born, he was not raised that way. He comes from an affluent background and neighborhood, went to St. Joe. Something changed this past semester, and he was not returning to school. Both of his parents are in the medical profession, and we're going to use the time to get him some help. So I could have jumped to conclusions there and generalized, and for that I apologize. But in general, and again, speaking in generalities here, children that are not raised in a thriving, safe home tend to be problematic as adults. And so I could have mischaracterized this one. Appreciate you clarifying that, Jimmy, and I apologize for that. Yeah, something radicalized this kid and got to him, obviously. And it could have been nutcases, as you know, Rhino, on social media. That happens a lot. And they dig into it, and they get obsessed with it and consume with it. And absolutely true. Despite the best efforts by parents, some just go astray. And I think that's what happened here, apparently. So, but I appreciate that, Jimmy, for letting us know. So the Supreme Court is taking up this case concerning transgender athletes today. And they, oh my gosh, the protesters are all around the Supreme Court, gathering around the building itself. They're going to hear these arguments. There's one in West Virginia. Basically, they're challenging laws such as we have here in the state of Mississippi and numerous other states that ban biological males from participating in female sports. So you've got a case in West Virginia, and let's see, there's another state as well, Idaho, yep. Both states who enacted laws that prohibit the
dudes in dresses
from playing sports against the girls. Simple as that. And so these cases have made their way all the way up to the Supreme Court. They're going to hear the arguments today. Now, in the meantime, we got crazy people that unfortunately are members of the United States Congress, and they seem to be a bit confused. We have some, actually, this is a Democrat senator, not in the Congress, in the state of Washington. I saw Washington and misread that and thought it was, I didn't think I recognized this individual. This is the state of Washington, and this is a Democrat senator in the state of Washington, and she's a bit confused. We got some sound here for you.
Can you acknowledge that there are biological differences between men and women that would give boys a physical advantage over girls in athletics?
No, I don't think I could say that definitively. First of all, I'm not I don't have the scientific expertise to be able to weigh in on that.
You need scientific expertise for that? Are you kidding me? That's the modern Democrat Party right there. Oh, no, I can't say that.
Can't acknowledge reality.
It's just so
because it doesn't
weak.
Follow the narrative.
This is going to be a big case that the Supreme Court's hearing on this. This is going to be a watershed moment, as the saying goes, to see how the Supreme Court weighs in and decides on these two cases. It's just amazing that that's even going on in this country, that we're wasting time and resources and money on this debate. This is insane. This is common sense. As you say, this is simple reality. These are just foolish people that are pandering. That's all they're doing. Placating. Virtue signaling, all those kinds of crazy things.
And in fairness, maybe they're just ignorant. Maybe they really do believe that all the girl bosses in the Marvel movies and the other movies coming out of Hollywood, maybe they think those are more documentary style.
I guess so.
Maybe they just don't see the difference between make-believe and reality.
It's just unbelievable that that's going on in this country and that we have someone elected to political office, albeit at the state level, still it's a state senator that on the floor of the Washington State Senate says, no, I don't think I can tell you that biological males have any sort of advantage over females in athletic competition. That's just incredible. We're going to step aside for a break. It's top of the hour. That means Fox News, SuperTalk News, coming right back with more of Middays. Once again at 12:05, it's Mississippi House of Representatives Lawrence Blackman. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. Hour 2 is now live from the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income growth and guarantees. At this moment, the Dow down 293 points. The NASDAQ up now. It's in the green. It was down earlier in the day. And we got the CPI report this morning. Dairy products down 0.9%. Electricity up. Just looking at the ups and the downs. You have eggs down about 20% as well. Coffee up 20%. Shelter up 3.2%. Beef up 17%. So you got a mixed bag when you dig into the
silver's at almost 90.
That's crazy. I saw that. That's crazy. A mixed picture, but the CPI report came in showing inflation at an annualized rate of about 2.7%. That's in line with expectations. Core down a little bit. Gas also, by the way, ticking up a bit. And that, of course, it's fallen about 18% on average across the country. That's mainly because the price per barrel is now back up to $60. You know, it's kind of what we've been saying on the program here. It just seems to be hanging around that. I think it did touch 55 last month, and but that's down. It was 75 or so when the president took office. He had $61 currently. So I just expect it to stay in that $60 to $65 a barrel range is kind of what it looks like. But that's the news on the economic front. Now, the president is really trying to address this affordability issue. I think he senses that that's the key issue, key priority. As we head into the midterm elections, those are getting underway right now. We got primaries coming, right, in Mississippi in March. And certainly the Republican primary scheduled for March. And then the midterm elections where every member of the United States House, every seat, I should say, in the United States House is contested. All 435. That will occur this November 2026, as we do every 2 years. So the president's doing some things that, honestly, I don't feel are great ideas. I get the I get the reason. The credit card rate situation is one that really does bother me. I consider that to be price controls. Wanting to cap credit card interest rate at 10%. And you know who he called yesterday afternoon? Liz Warren. So how weird is it that the president and Liz Warren, she no fan of the president and he no fan of her, that they're actually collaborating a bit on this legislation? That in itself bothers me. We should be concerned. I don't think that's something that the president can implement with executive order. He at this point, it's a request of the credit card companies. I don't think there's an appetite in the Congress to pass a law that would cap interest rates. If that should happen, the consequences are fairly easily to understand. It means that a whole lot of people that have credit cards right now would find them canceled, and that the only people that would be around to still have those credit cards are very low credit risk people that don't rely on them as much and frankly don't pay a whole lot of interest. So that would just upend the entire credit card industry. I don't think that's really the best way to handle the situation. What the credit card companies, in my view, should do is be a little more selective in the issuance of credit cards. That would drive the rates down because that would eliminate a lot of the high-risk customers that default, that are slow payers, delinquent. All of that costs money, and we all pay for that in the interest on the outstanding balances on those credit cards. And, of course, that's done on a daily basis if you read the fine print and how all that's calculated. So, and then as well, I'm not a big fan of just blocking institutional investors from buying private housing. It turns out when you dig into the data there, it's a teeny tiny infinitesimal fraction of the total single family residences. That's not really that much of a factor. I don't think that's going to change the dynamics. The big thing that's making housing expensive is we had a big pause during the COVID era trying to catch up on that. Cost of materials as a result of Joe Biden's inflation in particular.
Well, if you're not building new housing for a prolonged period of time, and then it's prohibitively expensive to build housing for a prolonged period of time, and you have millions of people coming into the country that don't belong over that prolonged period of time, it's a recipe for high prices and bad selection.
So in summary, we've got a decrease in supply that you described, and then we have an increase in demand that you described. So the combination of that, and then you layer onto that an increase in interest rates, a result of the inflation. And I still say, Rhino, I will take this to my grave, that it was the stupid American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden passed for political reasons. Totally for political reasons. The Democrats, that was the $1.9 trillion measure that was signed into law in March of 21, right after he took office. At the time, the economy was recovering nicely from the COVID shutdown and was on its way to stabilizing without government intervention. But no, they had to come out with this American Rescue Plan and then told us for several months, this inflation is transitory. And it wasn't, and we're still reeling from that. And that, I think, is the biggest reason why housing is unaffordable. So, and then the president has ordered Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to spend about $200 billion that they have in cash on the balance sheet to buy mortgages, which just injects more cash into the mortgage market. And as soon as he announced that, by the way, mortgage rates did fall. They went under 6% to 5.99. I'm not sure where they are today. I think looking at the 10-year, they may have trended up just a bit. But that's a more sensible, I think, move on the part of the administration to address mortgage rates in this case. And then, of course, the DOJ launches an investigation on Jerome Powell. And my understanding is, Rhino, the investigation of it, criminal investigation, is that he lied under oath, right, to the Senate. So it's not about investigating their monetary policy practices. I think he's trying to figure out a way to pressure him, honestly, to lowering rates, all in an effort to kind of address this so-called affordability issue in advance of the midterms. And then you got the other thing is the tariffs. That's going to come before the Supreme Court here pretty soon, and we'll see what happens there. The president says it would be disastrous if the Supreme Court ruled against the president's power to impose the tariffs that have been imposed, that those would be detrimental to our economy. He's also just overnight, right, imposed a 25% tariff on any country doing business with Iran. I think that's a good move. I'll tell you that. I think that's an appropriate use of the tool of tariffs because Iran is under a regime that's just bad. It's evil. It's hurting people. It's hurting the global economy.
And they're currently violently trying to put down an uprising.
Which is always the way, right? When you want to force your will on people the way they do, that's what happens. It's typically also how communism has been implemented in countries that still are under such a system. So I think the president's wise with that move. I like that. But these are all the factors that are on the table, all the issues on the table right now with respect to the national economy and, of course, the global economy as well. One thing that tariffs do is they improve the value of a nation's currency. So the trade imbalances in particular, because countries that buy products from our country, they have to convert their currency to dollars. And in doing so, that means the demand for dollars is up, increases, and in demand, of course, causes the value of the currency to increase. That's the way that dynamic works. Right now, it's time for a break with David Bowie bumping us out of this segment. Coming right back with more on Middays from the Element Wealth Studio.
Now it's time for the Bible verse of the day, brought to you by J&R Restaurant Group and Outback Steakhouse in Flowood. After Jesus said this, he looked toward heaven and prayed, Father, the time has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. John 17, verse 1. This has been the Bible verse of the day, brought to you by J&R Restaurant Group and Outback Steakhouse in Flowood. Online at jrrestaurantgroup.com. That's jrrestaurantgroup.com.
New year, new smile, please. For over 30 years, Dr. Carter has been creating confident, beautiful smiles. What are you waiting for? Stop hiding and start living. From veneers and crowns to tooth-colored fillings and whitening, Dr. Carter can transform your smile into one you love. Discover your options with a personalized consultation with Dr. Carter. Call or stop by Michael Carter DMD today and start smiling again. Located at 607 Crescent Boulevard, just north of the township in Ridgeland.
The one body shop that's always believed in using OEM parts and repairing vehicles to their original factory condition is Clinton Body Shop. Auto accidents are stressful, and the last thing you need is a repair that devalues your car and makes it unsafe. In a time when more than ever insurers are pushing consumers to body shops that work for them and not you, we want to remind you Clinton Body Shop believes you deserve to have your vehicle returned to its pre-accident condition. That's why we use OEM parts and OEM repair procedures. In fact, we're trained and certified by more automakers than any body shop in Mississippi. So remember, it's your right to choose where to get your repair. So choose Clinton Body Shop in Clinton or Richland. As our founder always said, we really do take pride in perfection. Go to ClintonBodyShop.com.
For a flipping good time, come down to Cock of the Walk.
The big news is shrimp at Cock of the Walk. Try all our shrimp offerings with our new shrimp platter, combination plates with shrimp and catfish or shrimp and chicken, or put a feather in your cap with all three in the red feather sampler. And don't forget the greens and coleslaw too, with locations on the Reservoir, Pocahontas, and 1 mile from the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee.
For a flipping good time, come down to Cock of the Walk.
I like chicken. I like fish. I like hush puppies. bites. I love it. Catfish is excellent.
For a flipping good time, come down to Cock of the Walk.
I'm Rex Baker with Gateway Rescue Mission. This world is a crazy, mixed-up place. Most of that is out of my control. But at Gateway Rescue Mission, we do what we can control right here at home in Mississippi. We offer a meal when someone is hungry, a warm bed at night, help for someone struggling with an addiction. In doing so, we try to make our little corner of the world a better place. Look us up at www.gatewaymission.org.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, on to the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Constant sorrow through his day. I am the man of constant sorrow.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. That particular tune there by the Soggy Bottom Boys, that's in the house band set list, by the way. I play a little brushes on the drums. Even though there aren't any in there, I said, guys, there's no drums in this. I'm just going to sit out. No, we want you to do something. So, oh, man. Video of that's kind of funny as well, kind of entertaining. Back with you in the Element Well studio. James from Petal says, I wonder how many people are unaware that the cloud just means that the data is stored somewhere else instead of the local device. It's a good question, James, but also keep in mind that much of the processing itself in a cloud architecture occurs in the data center. So it's not just storage. You're right, though, but it also includes the compute side of the processing as well. So minimum amount of computing occurs on your local device, usually for the actual interface itself, but the processing done by the big, powerful servers stored in the data centers, which comprise the cloud. So it's all the infrastructure involved there. It's the network, it's the compute, it's all in the storage, all stored, all housed together. Sometimes they could be remote from each other, honestly. You could have a local device, your phone, your PC, your laptop, your pad. As an example, you're connected via the internet using some software application program that may be powered by, housed on a server in one data center that is accessing data on one or more other data centers. In fact, Rhino, that's what makes artificial intelligence. It's what powers it. It's not like, okay, I got the whole large language model, the whole LLM just stored, housed in the facility. Some of it is cached, is put closer to the processor, but the reason it requires so many resources is because it is, in fact, just like a typical search with Google. You're searching the entire web, so that process is accessing multiple servers, multiple storage devices across the planet in multiple data centers, all interconnected with the high-speed connectivity that traverses our landscape today. And that means it crosses through multiple carriers that operate all the connectivity infrastructure. So I know I'm kind of getting into the weeds there, but the good news is you don't have to know all that. You just tap on your device. And you're right, though. James is right. Probably a lot of people don't realize that, all that's not just happening on your device. It's not being powered by your device. Access is. The interface is. But everything else is left to all the big iron behind the scenes that you're accessing through the connection itself. Kind of neat the way that works. But just thinking about all the benefits we receive in our society from all that technology, you can't calculate it. So while I understand folks' concerns about the data centers and the data center explosion, and the possible impact on things like electric rates and water used for cooling, land, of course, needed to construct the buildings, the facilities themselves. In the state of Mississippi, there's some people that are concerned about data centers taking up land that otherwise could be used for farming, although I don't think any. If you think about the 5 projects, Rhino, in the state of Mississippi, in Madison County, Lauderdale County, now DeSoto County, Warren County, Rankin County, I think that's the 5 that are underway in Mississippi. I'm not aware that any of those are actually being constructed on land that was previously used for agriculture. I don't think that's the case. By the way, the total acreage used for those buildings, about 5,000 acres. There are 30 million acres in the state of Mississippi. That means that the data centers consume 0.00016% of the land in Mississippi. So I don't think we're anywhere close to, and that's with $100 billion or so of capital investment in data center infrastructure. So I don't think we're really at a point where we're at risk of running out of farmland in the state of Mississippi anytime soon. And the other thing that's happening is all kinds of advances in agriculture as well. Might we head to a point, Rhino, where we're able to grow crops aeroponically? I mean, that's something been in development a while. I don't think we're close to that yet.
It's already done, just not at scale.
I think it's still cost prohibitive, but we're getting there. And the other thing to keep in mind is data centers are used in the farming process quite a bit. Everything from the back office to the field. We've marveled at these very sophisticated John Deere tractors. We've interviewed those folks from the great company Ag Up here in the state of Mississippi and marvel at the fact that these things are more like jet airplanes when you get in the cockpit of some of those big machines. And they're just loaded up with all sorts of artificial intelligence. And by the way, they're computing with data centers through the cloud. So we got to figure out a way for this technology that we desperately need. It's becoming a matter of national security and economic prosperity for our future without the risks and the concerns, and to satisfy those as well. I think, thinking about this the other day, we ought to pass a law in the state of Mississippi to sort of ease the fears of the power rates going up as a result of data centers being built, consuming lots of power. Why don't we just pass a law that says, hey, look, any private business expansion into the state of Mississippi that, let's say, consumes at a certain level of power and up is required to bear the incremental cost to supply that additional power. Just make that law, and the Public Service Commission would have to act on that. So the concerns that folks have about, well, they're cutting these backroom deals with a much discounted rate of electricity, meaning that the additional costs are going to have to be passed on to the consumers to pay for power companies' investment in that infrastructure. Well, let's just codify that in law. Say, no, you can't do that. That's not saying that you can't negotiate with big consumers of electricity as part of the deal, a discounted rate. Sure, the economies of scale are at play there. But to protect the consumers, just pass law says, yeah, you can't pass any of that on. Now, that was somewhat embedded in the big bill that essentially consummated the transaction with AWS in Madison, and the other bills as well concerning the other facilities. But we could take it a step further, is all I'm saying. Speaking of law, something else that I'm asking members of the legislature to do is to enact legislation this session that would align tax policy vis-a-vis state income taxes with federal income taxes as it pertains to the Big Beautiful Bill Act, the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, also is how it's branded, that now allows tips, overtime, and certain automobile finance interest, to be deducted above the line. We should align state tax policy with federal tax policy, because right now that only applies to your federal income taxes, does not apply to your state income taxes. Now, keep in mind this year that based on legislation that passed in 2022, which eliminated the 4% bracket of personal income taxes and then incrementally reduces the 5% bracket down to 4%. We're in the final year of that legislation, meaning that the year 2026, calendar year, your state income tax rate is 4%. It was 4.4 in 2025, 4% in 2026. That applies to all taxable income above $10,000 in accordance with the way that we calculate taxable income in Mississippi. And then based on the legislation passed last year, the very controversial bill that ultimately is designed to phase out totally the income tax, next year, the state income tax rate will be reduced to 3.75%, and then to 3.5, 3.25, down to 3 in 2030, and then from then, provided certain thresholds are achieved, it is reduced further, a maximum amount of 0.3% per year over a 10-year period. That takes the 3% rate down to 0. So all that's already in place as we speak. But the legislature's got to act to resolve this reconciliation between federal tax law, state tax law, as it pertains to tips, overtime, and automobile interest. So I'm calling on the legislature to fix that, not a big deal, so that folks can receive the benefit of that on their state income taxes. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
From theseabrook.com, ahead of the curve with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I haver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's havering to you.
On the C Spire text line, hey Gerard, good morning and Happy New Year to you. Just to comment about the W. My daughter is going there for RN school and has attended another school previously, and she is so pleased that she is at the W. She is at the right place, and they actually care about their students and their success. Kudos to the W, and happy retirement to President Nora Miller, who was on the program earlier today. So appreciate you letting us know that. That's great feedback, great testimony. Paula Meridian says, I guess ignorant people, bathrooms will need to be labeled has penis and no penis, talking about this state senator in the state of Washington who says that, no, I don't really see any difference between men and women when it comes to competition in sports. CC in Senatobia, yeah, there's absolutely no evidence that men are superior athletically to women. Just look at the countless number of women in the NFL, MLB, and NBA. Absolutely. Rhino, I'm a bit surprised, says Ben from Madison, to see HB 563 drop this session. I know you've talked about this issue over the last few years. It will be interesting to see if it gains any traction. What's that about, Rhino?
That is a bill that was dropped by Creekmore.
Okay.
That would provide for the rescheduling of psilocybin.
Yeah. You have talked about that.
Yeah, because there are a couple different studies that have shown micro dosages of psilocybin can dramatically improve the day-to-day life of those dealing with PTSD.
Gotcha.
And I know that some people know it as magic mushrooms and like to go on trips with it and taste the colors and see the sounds. My interest in it is if we really genuinely care about the veterans of our armed services that just recently, in the grand scheme of things, finished fighting the longest war in American history, why not at least research and look into and allow the research and the study of a potentially breakthrough in the treatment of PTSD?
Yeah. Well, that's good. Representative Sam Creekmore, he heads the Public Health Committee in the House. I think we're trying to get him on next week to share with us his priorities. I know the Certificate of Need laws also on the table again. We're following some legislation there. Not full repeal, but we got a little bit done last year, and it looks like this increments that a bit as far as the legislation that has been filed thus far. We shall see. Fred from Kosciuszko said, I was talking about data centers consuming land in Mississippi, and I just made the statement that none of that land took over any agricultural parcels. And he said, well, agriculture includes forestry, so that's possible. Well, sure, but none of this land that is used in the construction of data centers, it was cleared for that purpose, was land that was being managed and operated as a forestry business. So that's a little different. I mean, we're going to build buildings and cut trees down. We still have a bunch. Heck, out on the interstates, they're cutting trees down like crazy, too. Most of them are pine trees that died. The weather and drought did way more destruction to trees than this teeny tiny infinitesimal amount of land clearing we're doing. Look, we're human beings. We're going to build buildings. Now, we got to do it responsibly. Absolutely. And prudently, thoughtfully, and the same with this construction of data centers, the same with the use of artificial intelligence. But the solution isn't to say, well, no more, we can't do that. That's what Bernie Sanders is calling for. However, his is mainly because he's afraid some people are going to get rich from this. Oh, my gosh, we can't let people invent things that society is willing to consume and exchange their money for. They may get wealthy doing that. We can't have that. That's the way he sees it. Rather than Rhino seeing it, maybe we can leverage this technology to help those climb the economic ladder, like the Strongmind. Damian Creamer, the CEO of that company, we had on yesterday, talking about his new AI-powered teaching companion, Lexi, to help students that have needs and deficiencies in certain academic and subject matter areas that teachers can't get to every student individually like that. This is a way to enhance their educational experience. And that would help them succeed and thrive as adults in life. Maybe you're not so good at math. Okay, let me provide some additional instruction to you to help you with that subject. Teachers are overwhelmed as it is now, so especially with the shortage that we have. But
to put it a different way, from what I understand, the Lexi system and others like it would be the equivalent of, say, you were a really big Clint Eastwood fan.
Yep.
Growing up.
Yep.
You just loved Clint Eastwood while you were in school, but you were having problems with multiplication.
Okay.
And you really idolize Clint Eastwood, but you really can't figure out multiplication. With the AI tools, you could literally have the man with no name in his poncho and cowboy hat walking you through how to do your multiplication tables.
Yeah.
So you literally have the kid's hero teaching them something they need to know.
Yeah.
It's not this big, scary Skynet Terminator thing.
That's a good way to put it. Yep. So on the C Spire text line, the Cinco site was all farmland. No, that's not my understanding. But look, it's not like where all land probably that was developed at some point was farmland, because that's all we had. So the fact that we're turning dirt up and installing other sorts of industries on that land. This was designed for large-scale industrial use a long time ago. So in its potential industries, they're looking at automotive OEMs because we have a huge automotive industry here in the state of Mississippi. And then there also potentially data centers, metals industries, aerospace, because those are all industries that have some investment in the state of Mississippi. So again, I point out we're talking about 1,500 acres. 1,500 acres. That's I just mentioned that. So that's 1/5 of the 0.00001% of the land is being used for about $100 billion of data center investment. We got to be smart, prudent. I mean, nobody's advocating for, we'd rather have data centers than eat. I think we got to have both. So there's a way for them to coexist. And by the way, the farmers, like I said, rely on the data centers as well. It's why they're so dang productive. One of the reasons why they're so dang productive. They're struggling because, honestly, they're producing way more supply than we could consume. That's driving prices down, and that's causing many of them to operate at a loss. Can't produce a profit at that level. Let's see what else we say here. On the C Spire text line. Kevin from Brandon says, John Deere screwing the farmers on their maintenance. John Deere are the only ones that can work on new software on their farming equipment. One farmer said it cost him $6,000 just to update his software and shipping his unit to John Deere for maintenance and updates. I think there are other makers of similar equipment, right? I don't think they have a monopoly on that, so my recommendation would be to choose a different manufacturer. I'm not familiar with those details. I do know, Rhino, there was a lot of controversies about
basically the same thing that was happening with the McDonald's milkshake machine.
That's what I was about to say.
Happening with farm equipment, where if it goes down, you're not allowed to try to fix it. You got to call in a technician, and that technician has to work for a certain company that has a contract to be that specific company's technician for that specific implement.
Right.
And if you only got 1 or 2 or 10 technicians and you need 50 things fixed, you're just stuck waiting for them to show up and fix your stuff. That's why you're seeing more and more behind the movement for the right to repair.
Yeah. And I support that. Now,
where if I buy a piece of equipment and spend $1 million with this company, I don't have to also keep going to said company to get it fixed. I can fix it myself.
I support that, but I also support this. If you attempt to fix it yourself and you're unable to do it, and you have to call the company in, charge a premium for that. I'm okay with that, right? So you tried, you can't get it done, now you want us to bail you out. Okay, you're going to pay a premium for that. I don't have a problem with that. Gary from Tishomingo says, well, even if it's farmland that they're building on, it was not building on. It's most likely a farmer that sold it to them. Not true, Gary. I've been involved in those transactions. They're not farmers. They're old families that have this land for a long time.
Poly up a miss.
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Solar panels are consuming way more farmland than the data centers. With AI, we may be able to better diagnose and fix our tractors without dealer involvement. That's from Jack in the Delta. All the reports indicate that of all the solar panel projects in the state, about 10,000 acres. That's 0.0003% of the total land in the state of Mississippi. About half of that formerly farmland. I think there's gross overreaction to this. Now, we could certainly debate whether or not use of a big plot of land for solar panels is the most effective and efficient use. Absolutely. That's a worthy debate. But the fact that we're not going to be able to eat or have fiber for all the other applications because of solar panels is just not true. It's just not true. Look, wild hogs destroy more farmland than all this does combined by a long shot. And we've been fighting that forever, right? Still fighting it. I've been watching in Texas. It's a huge problem in Texas. Huge problem.
They've done all they can to take the gloves off with that. They got entire cottage industries popped up where, hey, you want to go in a helicopter with a minigun and kill 1,000 hogs a night?
Completely. There are armies of people out there trying to do that. Now it's kind of for sport, right? But it's also utility. There's an objective there, which is to get rid of these pests, essentially, that are consuming the farmland. On the C Spire text line, Brandon from Cleveland, was the farmland actually being farmed? There's tons of farmland just sitting in Mississippi. God forbid Mississippi thrive and grow, kind of like half of Cleveland, Mississippi's motto is keep Cleveland boring, shaking my head. I hear you, Brandon, and I agree, and I'm tired of being 50th in virtually every economic category. We are poised to become a technology juggernaut, in my view. And there's more stuff coming, and it's not just data centers. There are more interest from other industries in locating here because we're getting noticed. And what put us on the map to start with was the big AWS announcement. And that all of a sudden, it's like the path was cleared. It's like, wait, it's good enough for those people. What are they doing down there in Mississippi? They're pretty smart with this, is AWS. Maybe we ought to take a look. And that's exactly what's happening. And you saw Elon Musk say, hey, look, the speed to market, I'm paraphrasing a bit. I don't remember his exact quote, but he was asked, and he said, yeah, the speed at which they can get this done is insane. And that is a major advantage we have in the state of Mississippi over other states is we don't have a lot of red tape. And we're still working on eliminating what we have. And that's getting noticed. And as the governor likes to say, we want to take you from investing money to making money as quick as possible. That gets their attention. And we're doing well there. There's going to be more. There's going to be a cascading effect. I'm convinced of this. And again, it's not just data centers, but lots of related industries that I think you're going to see sprout up around and concentrate around all of these investments. Man, this is a good thing. We should be celebrating this. Darren in Jackson says, we're going to deer camp to kill hogs first weekend after deer season ends. Y'all come along. It's a big problem, is it not? It's a huge problem. So,
because they tend to reproduce faster than they can be harvested.
Okay. Well, that's bad because they're destructive.
And they are smarter than the average bear. They don't tend to take well to the same attempts on their life the same way. For example, if you had a pen set up, one of the traps they have where you got it on camera and you wait for the reason you wait for the entire family to get in the pen before you close the trap is because any of them that squirt out and get out, those hogs, you're not going to trap them. They're not going to go in a pen. They're going to learn, and then it's going to be harder to get them, and they're going to make more little hogs, and it's just going to get worse.
Going to pivot a bit here in advance of our discussion with Representative Lawrence Blackman, who will be in the Element Wealth studio as we kick off Hour 3. But Representative Kevin Felsher, he represents District 117. He had a very thoughtful post about HB 2. This is the rather large bill, the Speaker's priority that would implement a robust school choice program in the state and has a number of other provisions related to education as well, such as expanding the charter school laws, allowing them to locate in any district, not just be restricted to D and F. Also increasing the minimum pay for assistant teachers to $20,000, adding financial literacy requirements to students, creating new workforce and career pathway programs, requiring new school accountability and transparency measures. And he put this out there mainly, Rhino, for his constituents, where he says, hey, look, I'm reviewing this. I'm taking my time to understand it. And what are your thoughts? And as you can imagine, the comments are quite wide and varied. You know, you've got everyone who says, yeah, I'm all for this. I'm 100%. I'm reading one here. I'm 100% for this. Kids should not be penalized from going to a good school because of where they live, and money should follow the kids. Kids need the very best education. And then you got some people say, no, hell no. So, Fox News, SuperTalk News, and then Representative Blackman. Stay with us.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Thanks for joining us. We are waiting for our guest, Lawrence Blackman, member of the Mississippi House, on the C Spire text line. We received a text from someone that says, I'm a county supervisor in Panola County. I had some talking points on the solar panel discussion, and so I asked what those were. Said the taxes the solar companies say they will go to the school will not. The state collects them and reimburses the payments made to the schools. I'm not following that. So what you're saying there, and if you're listening, is that these assets, this property located in the county, and which includes real property as well, you're saying they're not paying ad valorem taxes on that, which goes to school districts, counties, and if they're in the city limits, cities? So I'm not following that. It says the locations the solar companies are picking are also great economic development sites. The solar fillers have to be close to power substations. The counties are better served with a job creation site than panels. Well, nothing's preventing from other industries, preventing other industries from locating there. So it's not an either-or deal. It's not, well, we can have solar panels or another type of company. That's not the case at all. And you see that same argument against data centers. Well, I've seen people say, well, why didn't they put a Walmart there? Well, nobody's preventing Walmart from building a store. Build next door. It's not that much land that's being taken here. So I stay confused about that objection, which I find honestly quite weak. It's just the opposite, my view, that these investments are getting the attention of other industries and businesses who say, well, maybe we ought to make an investment in Mississippi. So it's the cascading effect that I think we are about to witness. I know, because there's deals in the works right now as a result. So, what do we want? Now, I'm not for foreign countries coming in here and buying farmland. I think that's a bad idea. Or land close to secure type facilities such as military or even land and structures that provide power and water to Americans and to communities. I'm not for foreign countries, adversarial foreign countries in particular, such as China, Russia, coming in here and buying up the land for, I think, future nefarious purposes. Yeah, that's not a good idea. But I don't know that I want government to come in and say, nope, you can't have a transaction to sell your land. Should we go to farmers and say, you got to just sit on it? Sorry, you can't convert that. I don't think that makes sense. It's just incredible. So we should be excited and celebrating this because it ain't going away. It's not going away. And in fact, it will improve our future considerably. It's already happening. There's so many great things that are being produced by this new technology. If you're paying attention to the Consumer Electronics Show, it's going on right now. Also a big retail industry show. Unbelievable, the technology, cloud-based technology, of course, that we're seeing introduced for retailers to make them more efficient improve customer service, availability, convenience, profitability, all the above. We all benefit from that. That's just capitalism 101. And for as long as humans have inhabited the planet, we've sought to be more efficient in just human life. And these are examples of that. And this is fantastic. It's the growth that's powering our economy. When the president's out there boasting, as he should be, about our GDP growth. He just posted, by the way, he's all excited because inflation came in rather moderate. And, of course, the jobs report fairly stable. And GDP projections by the banks, very strong, by economists. That's all being powered by artificial intelligence and technology. That's the big growth industry in our economy. It turns out, by the way, that we had a net loss. You've seen this, Ron, of manufacturing jobs in this country last year. Not a net loss of manufacturing, a net loss of manufacturing jobs, about 8,000. Because we don't need people in the factories. It's just simple as that. But we all want cheaper stuff. Well, the way to get cheaper stuff is to remove the people from the factories. That's more expensive. And then, of course, the objection you hear is, well, what are they going to do? There's plenty of other things to be done that we need to educate our society to do. That's why I actually support, and I've shared before that I'm on this artificial intelligence task force. We have another meeting today with a report that we're intending to this month deliver to the legislature. But I actually support that as part of public school standards in education in this state. I think we need our students to pass an AI proficiency test, say in the 8th grade and in the 12th grade. You're going to have to deal with this in life. This is no different than being able to read and write and do basic math and other fundamental skills. You're going to face this too. Think about not only how we would be giving our students a leg up, but promoting that to prospective industry coming into the state. Our workforce is being educated on what you are looking for in your organization. You need people that are proficient with these tools and in this technology. We're educating we're ensuring before we give them a diploma and pass them on. No different than going through a reading gate, which has been so successful in the state of Mississippi, where we finally said, you know what? Despite the fact that the same people, as you pointed out, who oppose school choice, they oppose those reforms as well. We can't possibly make sure that kids can read and write and do basic math before we pass them out of the 3rd grade. That'd be unfair. They see the other kids passing. No, you're saving them is what you're doing. And that's it's gotten national attention. Heck, even the New York Times had another article over the weekend. They featured Hazelhurst. I don't know if you saw that, but the Hazelhurst Public Schools. And they talked to teachers there about how effective and how beneficial these standards have been in a school district that previous to that didn't do very well and was struggling to advance kids that just had mastered the basic reading and writing and math skills, and talked about the various methodologies and techniques they're using to teach these kids. And kids love games, and so getting creative and making up little games and stuff to teach them basic math, basic reading. This is brilliant. This is great. We're doing that here in the state of Mississippi. And the nation and the world are taking note, as they would, I believe, if we implemented some sort of basic AI proficiency standard that one had to pass in order to move on.
I would actually break it down into computer in 8th grade and then AI 12th grade.
Right.
Proficiency exam for it. Because what you're seeing now with the younger generations when it comes to computers, they can use them almost intuitively because the graphical user interface has been designed to be as intuitive as possible.
Yeah.
They've also grown up with touch screens and access to computers everywhere you look and Web 3.0 and everything. Like, they've been exposed to it, so they've learned through exposure. But there's a dramatic misunderstanding of the fundamental way a computer works.
No doubt.
There is an ignorance that is growing in the younger generation for simple things like files and folders.
Right. That's true.
They don't understand what's behind the screen or what's in the machine doing the work. They just know how to use the machine.
And
so
that's
I would say 8th grade computer proficiency, you just learn the basics of a data system.
Yep.
And then by 12th grade, you should be able to be AI proficient.
Okay. We could get creative around that, but you see the concept that I'm suggesting here. By the way, on the C Spire text line, somebody said, now we know why you've been pushing AI and data centers so hard, making money off it through that board. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? This is a board I was asked to serve on by the legislature. I get 0 for this. Not only that, I went to the AI conference in Las Vegas so that I could educate myself even more. I paid for that out of my pocket, 100%. I don't get paid for that. Come on. That's ridiculous. Neither do, actually, the only people getting paid are the other people on the board because they're working in the legislature. They get paid to be on the legislature. And I'm not denouncing that. I'm not criticizing that. But to suggest that there's money being made on that, coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
At Fillmore Buick G.
Check it out. Let's do this.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
$14.25 and $14.98. I threw the rock and roll party on my last birthday, but it's good. I'm rocking my life away. I've been moving and I'm grooving and I'm getting cool.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Data centers are attractive due to land costs, utilities, and almost no labor force needs. Solar for land costs and big power line supply. That's not really what drives the opportunity in data centers. It's us. It's our voracious appetite for digital systems. If we don't want these data centers, just shut off your phones, shut off your computers, stop driving, flying, eating, going to the doctor. Everything you consume has got a data center component to it. Just shut all that off. Move to the ice cap and disconnect from everything and just live your life out in solitude. This is a good thing. It's not going away. And the key is, and the solution is to figure out how to resolve the risks, the challenges that these pose and all this technology poses while leveraging the value created by it. If we weren't consuming it and paying money for it, then they wouldn't be building them. Simple as that. But we are, both at the consumer level and at the business level, at the commercial level. Everything. And I'm not talking about just AI. I'm just talking about cloud services themselves. I mean, I saw this coming 25 years ago. This would be a transformation in how we consume computing and information technology. This isn't going to change. But it's a good thing. It's positive. We're not ruining the planet. We're enhancing it. We're making it better. So many solutions to human problems are being developed and created as a result of access to information and all this powerful technology. It's not going to happen without it. And we haven't even gotten to quantum computing or the fact that it's also a matter of national security. We are in an arms race. We got to figure out a way to make sure that we can build these facilities and satisfy our information technology needs while ensuring that we don't harm other areas of society, such as power and the cost of electricity or water or other resources. We got to figure out a way to blend those together and make those live in harmony. We're smart people. We can do it. But just to shut the door like Bernie Sanders wants to do, says, no, we can't do that. That's just flat out asinine. How is that any different than AOC and all the climate nuts out there saying we got to stop flying on airplanes, got to stop eating meat, we got to eat bugs? It's the same deal. That's what I feel like this is, just a lot of unfounded fear-mongering to a great extent. So let's see. But I just got to tell you that the individual here that said that I'm making money off serving on this board, I don't even turn in the paperwork to get the $40 per diem when I go meet 3 or 4 hours. And I'm happy to be part of this organization because I think I can provide some valuable input that can guide policymakers with respect to this evolving technology. What we don't want to do is regulate to the point where we impair and impede creation and innovation. But we also want to make sure that our people are protected. So I give you an example of one of the things that I have recommended is anytime we as citizens are interfacing with government, talking about the state government, we don't control the federal government, but state and local governments, and if in that interface there's the use of artificial intelligence, whether it's in research, response, bots, whatever the case may be, any transactions, any interaction, any encounters, any interfacing, and AI is used, I think we as public deserve to know that. That's simple regulation. That doesn't impair the creation of new information or new technology, but rather I just think we should know. We should be alarmed of that. We shouldn't. We found that there are problems. You've seen this when AI bots in particular are used in mental health counseling. That can go awry. We should prohibit that. That's fairly simple, in my view. Well, it's a simple concept. I agree with you. Difficult to implement and govern and police. But it's still something we could act on in the form of regulation to prevent. I've already mentioned that I think that data centers, or it doesn't just mean data centers, it doesn't have to apply to data centers, but any business investment in our state that requires a certain amount of additional incremental electricity or water should bear the cost of all the infrastructure required to produce it and also to transmit it and, of course, to consume it. But as we know, if you know anything about the financial model of electric utilities, it's the capital investment. It's not the operating cost. It's the capital investment. It's the building out these substations and these transmission lines and all the above. That's what costs money that they recover in the form of your power bills. So that's what we want to prevent, is that, they gave them such a sweet discounted deal that we got to go to the consumers to cover the cost of that capital investment. No, we should make sure we have law in place, not just rely on the Public Service Commission and its negotiation, but make it a little more formal and official. Pass law that says, nope, anybody that comes in here, you're going to pay the cost. Now, by the way, Microsoft is down today, about $8. It was down $10 earlier because they made an announcement unilaterally where they're saying, we're going to cover all these costs. I don't know if you've seen that. This is their board is issued this policy, has adopted this policy, and that's got investors a little nervous. Honestly, they're already doing that. And the other thing we're seeing that the president is facilitating and recommending and encouraging is all these big tech companies figure out a way to work with the utility companies in concert to satisfy their power needs and not just say, hey, we're coming, you got to figure this out. I think that's wise. I like that. Again, we can figure this out, man. We can figure this out in a way that it is enormously beneficial to society the way it is intended to be without harming other areas. It's kind of like the school choice deal. The detractors there say, well, you're going to hurt the public schools. No, nobody wants to hurt the public schools. In fact, we believe this would enhance and improve the public schools. Nothing is a better motivator than a little competition. That's the way our capitalistic society works. Protectionism breeds mediocrity. And that's what we have in Mississippi. We protect education. We protect health care. We also protect gaming. We protect retail car dealers. We're protectionists. We're all about free markets except for those areas. Nothing is a better motivator than competition. And especially if those competitors are innovators. And they're always thinking about how to build a better mousetrap, as the metaphor goes. Man, that'll kick you in gear. That keeps a fire under your butt. Just simple as that. I'm glad to see these data centers coming to Mississippi. Back in the early 90s when I graduated from college with a degree in computer programming, I was third in my class. The number one programmer left and went to Pennsylvania, the number two to Alabama. I moved to Texas and did programming for many years. However, those jobs were not available in Mississippi. If we want to educate young people in the computer technology industry, that we need to have the jobs available for them to stay in Mississippi and make a living. Couldn't agree more. Heck, the thing that cost us more money than anything as taxpayers is the education that we're providing to Mississippi's youth and higher ed students as well, only to see them depart the state when they've got all that knowledge and all those skills. That's expensive. That's more expensive than any waste down there in the Capitol complex. We are subsidizing the other states with the most precious commodity of all, and that's human talent. That's what's got to change. And all the people say, well, those data centers, they don't hire a lot of people. Yeah, but what they do is attract a lot of industries that do. And even though they say, well, it's construction jobs, well, they're temporary. Aren't all construction jobs temporary? Don't you start and finish a job? You're not there permanently building a house or a building. I don't understand that. Are we against that? You're only going to be making $100,000 a year hammering nails for I may be exaggerating here, but the fact is the demand for those trade skills is up. And as the demand increases, the pay increases. Only 5 years. Only 5 years. Are you thinking that at the end of that, there's not going to be any more? Man. We're coming back in the Element Well studio with half an hour of middays.
From the Seabrook Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Okay, now you have a good one.
Okay, so more lunacy from state-level Democrats in Massachusetts, the Bay State. The Democrats have moved to limit miles people can drive because of climate change. SB 2246, introduced by State Senator Cindy Cream, that's C-R-E-E-M, would limit people's personal car use and mileage they are allowed to drive. It's already passed the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy, and now heads to the State Ways and Means Committee. Socialism, anyone? Just incredible. On the ceasefire text line, 601-879-4395. Paul in Meridian says, you can never win with these people. It seems like they want Mississippi to just stay on the bottom of everything, but then gripe about us being on the bottom. Touche, Paul. Amen. Rhino's shaking his head as well. We totally agree. You know, Rhino, I wish I could say, I've got the perfect project, right? It's absolutely perfect. It would, in that, it would satisfy everyone. Everyone would be happy. That project don't exist. And it won't. And I just don't understand.
Especially if you're applying the standards and the operating procedure of a society and an economy 50, 60 years old.
Totally true.
Like, you can go back 50, 60 years, and certain sectors of the economy were much more important, and other sectors that are now big didn't even exist.
100%.
But because that change has happened, and it has happened over such a prolonged period of time, you have a couple generations that are just unwilling to get with it.
I follow these crazy sites out on social media and save the water and all this kind of stuff. And they make these long videos using data centers and then publish them using data centers to smear data centers. Idiots. If you were serious, but you're not, you know that. It's attention, right? Look at me. That's what it is. If you were serious,
it's 85% of the Democrat platform.
You disconnect.
Look at me, pay attention to me.
It's terrible. It's ridiculous. Lee in Stark Vegas says the road construction on 82 from Mississippi to Tuscaloosa is a construction job that seemingly has no end. I hear you, Lee. So this idea that all these people that are involved in construction of these facilities, these are temporary. Well, is that a problem? There are people. I've talked to Mississippi companies.
I guess those people don't eat or drink or sleep or drive or buy presents for their kids.
Right. Spend
jewelry for their wife.
Spend money in the hotels and the restaurants and the shops. And not only that, construction requires lots of tools and other assets. They're acquiring them from Mississippi companies. They also got to go to the bathroom. So the porta potty people are doing pretty well on this project, the same. So when you see Mississippi companies, literally that are making more money than they ever have during the construction period, involved in the construction, that's a bad thing? Help me understand that. So they're paying their employees, likely boosting their pay. I don't know. They haven't told me that. But if you don't, you lose them because there's plenty of work out there. So more demand, I know. Second order thinking, we're Econ 101 here. More demand for that talent means they can get more money for their capability, their service. They're selling their labor as a commodity without government involvement. How is that bad? I don't see anything but good. I'm struggling to understand it. And people are coming out of the woodwork. Oh, I used to be able to sleep at night. I can't sleep at night. I mean, just dream up all kinds of crap, looking to do nothing but shake down others that have money. You don't have any money. They got it. You give some to them. Unfortunately, that happens in our courts a lot. That's the way the decisions are made. They just look at the scale of who's got the most money, and they just redistribute it. Not everywhere. I'm not saying. I don't want to throw every judge in every court under the bus here. But there's some. And by the way, the lawyers are smart. They know which courts operate in accordance with that mantra, and they try to get those suits in those courts. And that's crazy stuff going on. I couldn't be more excited, as you can tell. And if you're thinking out there that I am because I'm personally benefiting from this financially, you're wrong. I'm not. Except to the extent that the great state of Mississippi thrives and improves from an economic perspective. I believe we all benefit from that. Who doesn't agree with that? If you don't agree with that, then you're aligned with the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democrat Party. They see bad in economic growth. They don't, again, as I've said so many times, they don't want to expand the economic pie. They just want to recut it and redistribute it. Again, you got more money than them, give some over here. Just incredible. Fortunately, our president gets this. He supports this revolution, but he also knows that we got to make sure that we don't harm it's not like the gorillas with their, the elephants, as they used to call the elephant ball. They're just kind of stepping on stuff and moving in one direction, pivoting. Oh my gosh, you just destroyed that in an effort to build that. We don't want to do that, and don't support or condone that. This school choice thing that is heating up in the state of Mississippi is receiving lots of feedback. I told you earlier about Representative Kevin Felsher and his very thoughtful post on the matter, and again some of the feedback. Please consider the whole system needs a major redo while you ponder what a good education is worth in Mississippi and whether we need that. Okay, I can buy that. I don't think legislators are down there thinking, hey, our education system is perfect. It doesn't need any reforms. But it is complicated, and what we need to do is certainly a subject of much debate. And one of the questions was, is there a limit on the number of times a student can transfer schools within school year? And Representative Felsher, he responded to that, and he says HB 2 does not clearly set a hard limit on the number of times a student can transfer during a single year. But, of course, it requires acceptance by the receiving district in a public-to-public transfer. It does not require the consent of the home district. That's really what it does there. And also that does not provide transportation. So a lot of people are saying, well, this doesn't really help the people without means that want to transfer to a better school because they don't have the means to transport their children to that better school. The bus isn't going to come by and pick them up if they live outside of the district. But again, Rhino, can't we get creative here? I'm suggesting to engage the private sector. Why can't the private sector step up and perhaps provide some sort of funding for such a system? It can't solve and resolve every situation, but we could get creative here without always calling on the taxpayer, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'd like to see our legislature think more about engaging concerned people in the private sector that are willing to make some investment there, provided they can be comfortable that it will be handled with the utmost of care, that the state or whomever is responsible for administering it would do so consistent with good fiduciary practices. That's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now, we got the Democratic Party, by the way, who says that, oh, wait a second there, Mr. Speaker, this may be unconstitutional. By the way, they're saying that Article 8, Sections 201 and 208 lay out some boundaries talking about the Mississippi Constitution, that the state must fund free public schools. That doesn't even make sense. Fund free public schools. It may not send public education dollars to private schools, especially if they charge tuition or are run by religious groups. And, of course, they're saying that, well, the Republicans are crafty. They're trying to get around this because the money, the vouchers, the scholarship accounts go to the families who then choose where they invest them. And so it's not going directly to the private schools. This is just throwing up, right, an objection for the purposes of objecting without really any substance to it, in my view. Kind of sad that that's where we are. Man, oh man. And then the Mississippi professional educators, they're calling on their members to contact your rep and senator and tell them, no, this is bad, not good. 500 pages of nope, not no, but no. Protectionism at play there. Final segment of Middays on this Tuesday. Coming right back after this break. We are in the Element Wealth studio.
Nowadays,
properly set all controls before recording.
all systems go. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Roundabout. Dave on the res says, CAVE people, citizens against virtually everything. Yeah, just looking here at the announcement. This was from last Thursday. WDAM posted an announcement about the Elon Musk XAI investment in South Haven. And, of course, one of the comments, time for Tate to go. They're not happy because he brought in $10 billion of investment.
$20 billion.
$20 billion, right. Pardon me. Yeah, the AWS project announced at $20 billion for the XAI data center in South Haven. Another individual says, all the problems with the roadways, schools, and businesses, but we need an AI data center. It makes sense. Does this person not realize that the taxes these companies pay fund the schools and the roads?
That person probably struggles to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time.
Can't believe it. Here's another one. Our forests, our water, our animals, and our beautiful state are not worth putting in danger for AI. Last year, AI used as much water as the entire bottled water industry and emitted as much carbon as New York City.
Friggin' hippies and their lives.
You've probably seen that golf courses use like 16 times more than data centers do. How long we had golf courses and irrigation systems on them?
Even worse, these granola-loving hippies can't stand dairy milk because it's cruel to the cows, so they drink almond milk.
That's true.
And they have no problem with the just insane amounts of water that almond farming requires.
Talking about the construction jobs, and I just don't get they're only temporary. Yeah, but these people are making a bunch of money, and they'll move on to another one. It's just insane. But Gary from Tishomingo says, when the 10-Tom Waterway was being built in North Mississippi, I made 3 times as much money in a year as I could make in any factory or the plant in the area. Thank you for sharing that, Gary. I'm quite sure that's the case. You're Bernie Sanders Jr. making a profit like that. I'm just kidding. Absolutely. Let's see. There are people in Grenada, Mississippi who will benefit from the AIs. They will be producing cooling systems for the AI industry via a local manufacturing that has a contract for that. AI data center, I should have said. Absolutely. That's just another one of the sort of downstream positive benefits that doesn't get talked about. And guess what they'll use in the manufacture of the AI, of the systems to cool the AI? AI. Oh, my gosh. Paula Meridian, ignorance is bliss. Maybe they'd shut up if you legalize cannabis. I'm not really sure. I think there's just a segment of the population out there that's just never happy. They're just perpetually aggrieved, constantly looking for a cause, always got to complain, never happy, right? If you handed them a suitcase.
Yeah, I mean, in previous generations, they were the grumpy old guy that sat on in his rocking chair on the front porch yelling at everybody that walked by. So people tended to ostracize them and not deal with them and just ignore them. Well, we live in a world of social media where that person now feels the need to, instead of yelling from the rocking chair on the front porch, yell it for all the world to see in ones and zeros on their favorite social media platform.
That is so true. And like I was about to say, if you handed some of these people a suitcase full of currency that amounted to $1 million, they'd complain about the denominations of the bills. Right?
It's too heavy. Why didn't you just write me a check?
Oh, man. Gary in Carrollton said these jobs are full-time. The workers move on to the next project. Absolutely. And good point, Gary, because they gain skills, right, that they didn't possess often as a result of being involved in this project that are going to continue to be in demand. Agree. And many of them do move. That's their lifestyle. They're sort of nomadic in that. But I've met
That's
some
how
that
the French built so many nuclear reactors.
I didn't know that.
They literally had a team that just traveled
around doing that,
building reactors.
Okay. But I have met people, as have other people on our board, that have said, yeah, I'm staying here permanently. I love it here. And, okay, when the construction dries up, I'll find something else to do. There'll be plenty. Don't we have like a shortage of construction workers? Isn't that why so many people are able to...
Just about all physical labor jobs.
Yeah, in the trades, landing these jobs, making more money than college grads in certain professions. So, gosh, this is great. This is what makes the world go round. Think about that. We're increasing the need for that sort of labor, and as a result, their pay, their compensation is rising, while we're increasing the need for these people with the technical expertise. And all the people say, well, they don't have enough people out there working in the data centers. Do you know how many other jobs are created as a result of that technology? Not only
if they're arguing, then no, they don't.
Unbelievable. A child born today will likely occupy a job when they're an adult that is yet to be invented. That's where I think we're going. We're out of time here today. We're going to find Representative Blackman. Not sure what happened to him today. We're getting back on the program. Tomorrow, I think we got Congressman Michael Guest and Chris Green joining us. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.